You can judge the quality of an idea by the quality of its detractors. If no one cared about Bitcoin, it would be a bad idea. If ignorant people cared, it'd be a bad idea. Bitcoin does to money and value what the internet did to media and commerce. When someone goes against you, just move on, right? Because the market's never wrong, you're wrong. And the problem for most investors or traders is they don't like to be wrong. But here's the problem. If you don't like to be wrong, get another job.
If you want to see more videos and interviews like this from influential people in tech, finance, and sports, subscribe to the channel and make sure you hit the bell to be alerted. And go a step further and join the YouTube membership area for early releases of videos like this. I'm out of here. It's your boy Crypto Blood, and welcome to another Kicking It session. Today, I've got a new guy. We haven't had him on the channel yet. He's an OMG. That's what he calls himself, an OMG. We'll ask him what that acronym stands for. Mark Yusko, legendary Mark Yusko, joining me today. Thank you for tuning in and joining, Mark. How are you?
Thanks for having me. And
Mark W. Yusko. I didn't know your middle name. Okay.
No, absolutely. You know, it's interesting. I always knew I was in trouble when it was Mark William, right? So
right. Yeah, that's how it was with my mom. That middle name comes out, it's over.
It's all over. It's all over. But OMG, old macro guy. I'm old, right here to prove it. And I came out of the macro world. I was a asset allocator and hedge fund manager for many years, and kind of stumbled down the rabbit hole starting in 2013, but wasn't smart enough to really embrace digital assets in 13. It took me a couple of years to kind of get the confidence to go all in, but really went mostly all in 2017, 18, started Morgan Creek Digital, part of Morgan Creek Capital. And here we are talking today.
Yeah, I actually interviewed your guy, Jason Williams, a couple of years ago on my channel. I don't know if you ever saw that interview, but I had a great time with him. Morgan Digital.
Yeah, Jason and Pomp were my original two partners in Morgan Creek Digital back in 17 and early 18. And today they've downshifted to what are called venture partners. So they were general partners originally, now they're venture partners. And I've got two new general partners in Morgan Creek Digital for our newest fund, Fund 3. And we're just getting ready to launch Fund 4 here coming up.
Wow, is it funded?
So we've done 3 funds. So I did the first 2 funds with Pomp and Jason in 18 and 20. And then they downshifted to venture partner, added 2 new general partners.
I guess my question was, and I'm not fully in that world, is it fully subscribed? Is that the right word to use?
Oh, okay. I got no. These are venture capital funds in that people commit capital up front.
Yeah.
Then we make investments in primarily the equity of companies that support the ecosystem, exchanges, software tools, any number of businesses. We can put up to 20% of those funds into liquid assets, liquid digital assets. And, if you look at that, it's mostly Bitcoin, some Ethereum, a little bit of Solana, a little bit of the Graph.
I tell people all the time who watch my channel that I think the best way, you are in a position, I think, the best way to capitalize on this new burgeoning industry is to own something.
Yeah.
Not speculate on the price up or down, in my opinion. Right? If you can find those companies, and it's very hard for those who aren't qualified investors and all of that stuff. Right? That's the unfortunate part. But if you can either start your own business within the blockchain space, I think that's where you'll knock it out the park the next 5 to 10 years, instead of worrying about where Bitcoin is going to be tomorrow, or Ethereum, or whatever coin, right?
Yep, couldn't agree more. And you think about it, investing, I believe, is always superior to speculating or gambling, right? In the sense of, if you think about what we do as investors try to buy things today that are below their fair value and that they'll appreciate in the long term. And we take a long-term perspective. Then there are traders And traders don't really care about fair value. They don't care about long-term. They want to scalp some return from trading. Trading is hard. There are very, very few really good traders, but they exist. Then there are speculators. Now, speculators are interesting. Speculators kind of get a bad rap in that people think of them as the fourth category, which I'll get to, which is gamblers. But speculators are actually an important part of financial ecosystem in that there are people.
They provide liquidity, right?
They provide liquidity. Exactly. They provide liquidity, and they are there to be the opposite side of hedgers. So let's say I'm an oil and gas producer and I'm drilling for oil, and I need to sell it in the marketplace. So I sell it in the futures market. I need someone like you to come along and take the other side of that transaction. I'm a hedger, you're a speculator. Not evil, not bad. Now, when people take that construct and twist it a little bit and say, okay, a speculator today is someone who buys something they don't have any knowledge of, they don't really have any conviction, it's moving. Then the problem is you go to the next level, which is gambling, when you do it with leverage. And the problem with leverage, right? If I buy a house for cash and it goes up 10%, I make 10%. If I borrow half the money, it goes up 10%. I actually make 20%, 10 on 50. If I borrow 80% of the money, like a normal mortgage, and the price goes up 10%, I've now made 50%. So you take it to the silly extreme. If I borrow 100% of the money, if some bank will give me 100% mortgage, I get an infinite return. But it goes the other way, right? If price goes down 10% and I own it in cash, I lost 10%. If it's half, leverage, I lose 20. If it's 100% financed, I got an infinite loss. So, and I think that's what happens in markets is people start, I'm going to buy something because I think it's undervalued. Okay. I'm an investor. And, then it goes against them. Well, now I'm a trader. Now I'm going to sell, I'm going to buy some more. I'm going to double down. Bad idea. Right? When something goes against you, just move on. Right? Because the market's never wrong. You're wrong. And the problem for most investors or traders is they don't like to be wrong. But here's the problem. If you don't like to be wrong, get another job, right? Get another passion because the best,
you're going to be wrong.
The very best
traders know they're going to be wrong
in the world are right about 58% of the time. Julian Roberts. And so most of us are lucky to be right half the time. But as Stan Druckenmiller said, it's not whether you're right or wrong. It's how much money you make when you're right and how much money you lose when you're wrong. So if you can minimize your losses and take losses quickly and just admit you're wrong and move on to the next idea, the gains actually take care of themselves.
Right.
And the biggest superpower in investing, I learned this from my mentor, Julian Robertson, is, he hired and trained many of the very best managers in the world. John Griffin, Steve Mandel, Andreas Halverson, all these guys who now are masters of the universe, all worked for Julian. And I got to ask him over the years, again, being an old guy, what made him so great? And they all said the same thing. They said he had an uncanny ability to double up. He would never double down, right? If something went against him, he was out, said, live to fight another day. I'm wrong. Next idea. But when something was working, most people want to take their profits. They're so afraid that they're going to lose their profits. They pull their flowers and then they water their weeds. Like they're like, I'm right. So I'm going to double down. And Julian's like, no. Pull your weeds. Just admit you're wrong, move on, and water your flowers and let them grow. And that is a skill that's really, really hard because it means you have to have a long time horizon. You have to take
counterintuitive, really.
Well,
investing in trading is counterintuitive.
Yeah. Well, no, you're right. You're right. Because here's the thing. Now, people argue with me and say, well, but Mark, you say you're a value guy. So if you buy something and it goes against you, why shouldn't you buy more? Well, to that point, if I've done the work and I think the fundamental value is below, or the price is below the fundamental value, I actually probably would buy a little more because I don't like to buy all at once anyway. I think that's
Correct.
never a bad idea. I think you should dollar
Right.
cost average over time.
Right.
The difference is what's hard is when things are moving in real time and they're moving up and they're running away and things might even get ahead of themselves and be overvalued because the fundamentals have to catch up to the price. That's when it's really hard to keep doubling up. So I agree, it is
Right.
counterintuitive. But the main point there is price is not value, right? You got the prices scrolling across the bottom of your screen.
Exactly.
That has nothing to do with value, right? And I haven't seen an individual stock, but if an individual stock came up, and let's say it was Amazon, and that price came across and it said $89, that's for 100 shares traded. So if you have 100 shares, that's the price. Got 1,000 shares, not the price. Got 1,000,000 shares,
Right.
not the price, right? Probably couldn't even sell 1,000,000 shares in one day. So value is very different than the price. The price is what two people agree to buy or sell some good or service at a particular point in time.
And people
Value,
conflate that all the time.
yeah.
All the time. The
Well,
value and
and
price
for
thing,
people
right?
that watch, right? I think the real huge value for shows like yours and for people who watch with a cadence or with a discipline is this idea of discipline, right? I mean, the thing about investing, you can't do it a little. You have to do it a lot, and you have to understand that you're going to make mistakes and you're going to have setbacks and not everything's going to work. And so you need diversification and you need a process and a system and a routine. And I think that comes from people like yourself reiterating time and time again, today's another day, yesterday is past, don't focus on it. Focus on the next play. In fact, I don't like to talk about him that much because I'm a Carolina guy. I'm in Chapel Hill, and I'm actually going to dinner with the Carolina team tonight, which is kind of cool. Wearing my Carolina blue.
Nice.
But I did get to spend some time with that other coach down the road over in Durham, and it was fun. I got to spend an hour with him talking about some investment stuff. And he said, Mark, what separates the great players from the average players? I'm like, no, but you're going to tell me, right? And he says, the average player always focuses on the last play, right? How many times have you seen someone miss a shot and go down and commit a stupid foul, right?
Right.
Because they're thinking about missing the shot. They don't want to make up for it. He
Right.
said, a great player doesn't even remember taking the shot. They're going to miss some. They go back, play good defense, steal the ball, make a layup. So they're thinking about the next play. So they immediately erase the bad thing that happened and focus on that next play. And investing is the same way. If you're obsessing about a loss or about a mistake or about something that happened in the past rather than focusing on the future or focusing on your process and deliberate practice, right? Investing like anything else, like shooting free throws. The only way to get better.
But I think the underlying thing there, to me, what I'm hearing you say here, it really is eliminate emotion.
Yes.
Right?
Oh my
Take
gosh.
emotion out of
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
I wish I still had it.
Absolutely.
My first firm that I ever worked for was two professors at Northwestern, and the name of the firm was Disciplined Investment Advisors. And they actually had these brown coffee mugs, which I wish I had one because they sell on eBay for like hundreds of dollars now. I should probably buy one just for posterity. And they said, invest without emotion. So your insight is amazing. That's exactly what you need to be able to do.
I want to go back to leverage and buying assets. This is the biggest thing and bone I have to pick with your buddy, Michael McDonald. I call him Michael McDonald Sailor. I was all good with him being a champion for crypto. He got in kind of late, not kind of late. He got in late, okay, but stole a lot of attention. He became like the spokesperson for Bitcoin. Okay, fine. But when he started buying Bitcoin on leverage, I said, oh, I don't know if that's going to end well. I don't know. It may, but it does, I just would not have done that for for a publicly traded company. I wouldn't have put leverage.
No, here's the thing.
Okay.
Here's the thing. As long as the asset liability match is okay, it can be okay. And what I mean by that is, if you have short-term debt, like if you have a loan to a bank that they can call anytime, and you buy a long-term asset, that's a bad trade.
That's no
That's
good.
called an asset liability mismatch, and you're going to lose every single time. And that's why, again, your instincts are perfect. Leverage can never make a bad investment good. Not ever. It can, and unfortunately often does, make a good investment bad. Well, why does it make a good investment bad? Because you get forced to sell at the wrong time.
At the
for
wrong
margin
time.
call. But here's what Saylor did that is not the dumbest thing in the world. He issued long duration bonds with 0 interest. So he doesn't have to pay people anything to borrow their money, which is pretty amazing when you can do that. And there's no call, right? They can't call it back and say, you have to pay me back and go sell your Bitcoin. Because he's got a long enough time horizon on those bonds, he can handle the volatility of the price if we all believe, as we do, that the long-term price will be higher than the short-term price. That's the only way that leverage can make sense. Now, I will still argue that you're right, that he's probably on the edge of how much leverage is appropriate. The thing I disagree with him, and I don't like to disagree with him because I agree with most of what he says, and I think he's a good spokesperson. When he said you should mortgage your house and go buy Bitcoin,
right.
That was bad advice. And and the reason that was bad advice is that leverage is backed by the house. Now you're adding, and that house doesn't fluctuate day by day.
It's not mark to market. Yeah,
right? It's not mark to market. Right. Now we all know that they do have volatility, and it's really more a question of the house doesn't change. The value of the currency we buy houses with changes. Like I talk about this all the time. I'm sitting in this house, and according to Zillow, over the previous 12 months, my house went up 40%. No, it didn't. It didn't grow. It didn't get more efficient.
Productivity. Right.
It actually wore out, meaning I had to put money into it to keep it normal.
Exactly.
So it didn't actually.
It's a non-productive asset. That's what it is, right?
It is.
A non-productive asset.
I get benefit from shelter, but the key is the money that we denominated in got worse because the Federal Reserve had X trillion dollars and they added Y trillion dollars, and the number is staggering, right? From March 2020 to 18 months later, they printed out of literally thin air half of all the dollars in the history of our republic. We've been a republic, right? People like say, oh, we're a democracy. No, we're a republic, actually. We're a republic. Democratic republic.
I had that debate with someone a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that is in 246 years, I guess 247 now, because 2023, we've had half of all the dollars printed in the last 2+ years. So if you think about it, what should have happened to assets priced in dollars? Like if I priced my house in houses, it would have been flat, right? If my house price was at 2121 North Lakeshore Drive, that price would have been flat. But I don't price it in house units. I price it in dollars. So it went up. That's interesting. How about Bitcoin? 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin. No, Mark. No, what Bitcoin is $21,000. No, 1 Bitcoin is 1 Bitcoin. But we don't price Bitcoin in Bitcoin. We price Bitcoin in dollars or yen or euros or pesos or lira. Here's a funny fact.
I don't know if we'll ever price it against itself.
Do you? Only,
I see those tweets and I get.
Yeah.
I don't like that saying 1 Bitcoin is 1. And I always hear when we're in the bear market. I've been through a few of them now, Mark. And when it's down and out, I know in crypto Twitter, I see 1 Bitcoin equal 1 Bitcoin. I say, oh, We're in a bear market.
I don't mean that as proof that it's not volatile. What I mean is it's like a bar of gold.
Mm-hmm.
A bar of gold is a bar of gold.
Right.
It's not 2 bars of gold. It's not half a bar of gold. It's a bar of gold. Mm-hmm. And I can't break it in half and give you half of it, right? I'm strong enough to do that. I guess I could melt it down and make coins out of it or something. But a bar of gold is a bar of gold. But we don't price gold in gold. We price gold in other currencies. And this is the key, that for 5,000 years, it's a long time, right? 5,000 years. So since Cleopatra's time, a fine person's suit to a suit of armor from medieval times to
a
zoot suit in 1920 to Savile Row today, 1 ounce will buy you a fine person's suit. It's a perfect store of value. Over all those centuries, all the currencies that came and went, perfect store of value. Now, Bitcoin is simply digital gold in the sense that it is a perfect store of value. And the reason one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin, like gold, we know how much there is, right? We know how many bars. In fact, better than gold, we know precisely, with precision, for the next 140 years, how many Bitcoin there will be. Now, we don't really know because some will be lost or stolen or whatever. And Satoshi said, well, consider that just a contribution to the community, which was amazing that he said that before any were actually lost or stolen. But the key is, here's a fun fact. If you live in the United States, you would say we're in crypto winter. There's a bear market in Bitcoin, right? Not in Turkey. Price of Bitcoin in Turkish lira has never gone down. Not once, right? It's gone straight up. Same thing with bolivars in Venezuela. So if you were in Venezuela and Maduro and his cronies were stealing your wealth by devaluing their currency to zero, literally to zero, if you took those bolivars and put it into Bitcoin, you were safe. Now you could have done it with Dash or Monero or something else, but Bitcoin was ideal.
Or a home or any other asset that's priced against
that. The problem with the home is then in order to sell your home, you still have to sell it in bolivars because where you live, at least for now, right? As long as we have nation states, which there could be a future without nation states, it's possible. But right now we have nation states, and each nation state gets to decide what you and I transact in. Right? We use green pieces of paper in the United States. In China, they use red pieces of paper. In Israel, they use yellow pieces of paper.
In Canada, they use plastic.
That's right. It's plastic.
Have you seen the plastic bills?
Yeah. So, and it's, I don't know. What I think is important is we all get up every day and we convert energy to value. Right? So we do. We fuel our body and then we try to create value. You do it with media. I do it with investing. Other people make widgets. Other people drive Ubers. Whatever you do, you're trying to create value. And what's really cool is for the last 100+ years in the United States, 110 years to be precise, that activity has been impeded by the people at the top. Now, what do I mean by that? From 1776, when we created this republic and we created the currency called the dollar. Why was it called the dollar? Well, because the Rothschilds had the Rijksdollar in Holland and we copied them, right? And so we created the dollar. And from 1776 to 1913, $1 was equal to $1. Now, there was a little bit of fluctuation around the two wars, but $1 is worth $1. Since 1913, $1 is now worth 3 cents.
Yeah.
So what happened? We created a central bank, the Fed. And the problem with the Fed, it's not federal, nor does it have any reserve.
Man, when I read the Jekyll from
the creature from Jekyll Island.
Oh man.
No, I mean, look, you are more well read than 99% of the people on the planet. And if you haven't read that book, you need to read it because that book describes, look, it was a sinister, and I use that term intentionally, a sinister plot by a very small group of people. Basically, J.P. Morgan, John D. Rockefeller, who was the son-in-law of Amory Aldrich, and Amory Aldrich was really the architect. In fact, there's another amazing book that no one's read. It was written in 1910 while the whole Aldrich plan was being created. Because what happened is in 1907, there were a number of trust companies that were popping up in the United States that were competing to be new financial institutions. And JP Morgan didn't like that. His famous quote is, "I like a little competition." And this company, Knickerbocker Trust, was stealing all his customers.
Yeah.
And so, as tough guys are prone to do, he spread some rumors, perhaps false, that Knickerbocker Trust was insolvent. And
right?
If you go to Wiki and look up bank run.
That's the bank run, right?
Okay?
Right. That's where I knew that.
That's the famous picture of the guys in their top hats and the women in dresses and the umbrellas, and they're standing outside the bank. That was the bank run. And JP Morgan and his friend John D. Rockefeller said, we'll save you. 25 million bucks, which back then was a lot of money. They pledged 25 million of their personal money to backstop the banks. Literally, like the scene in It's a Wonderful Life where Mr. Potter is bailing out the bank and the guy's dotting his brow and they're calling the building loan to say, hey, we'll save your guys too. And they're like, no, you're not stealing our business. So from that point, from 1907 to 1913, they hatched this plan called the Aldrich Plan to create a central bank that ostensibly would stop these bank runs. No. What it did is it gave non-federal power to create money. And Thomas Jefferson said this very clearly in the 1790s. He said, look, if the American people ever allow banks to issue currency, they will wind up penniless and homeless on the shores of the country that their forefathers founded. Powerful stuff from 1790s. So here we are, we cede money creation to the Aldrich Plan. And this guy wrote this book, and I actually can't remember the name of it, but if you just Google, vampire octopus from 1910, it'll pop up. And I've tweeted the picture out a bunch of times. It's this.
Is it like a kraken? A kraken?
It looks like a kraken. It looks like a kraken, and it's got its tentacles around companies
I've
and
seen
banks,
that.
and it's upchucking the money into
I've seen that.
the central bank.
I've seen that.
And,
okay.
And here's the crazy thing, where life imitates art. So this will be weird. People say, Mark, you're crazy. So if anyone's seen the movie the series Stranger Things, so in the movies or in this series, The Stranger Things, there's this thing called the Mind Flayer. If you put a picture of the Mind Flayer next to this picture, they look exactly the same. And if you look at a picture of Hawking's National Institute and the Eccles building of the Fed, they look like the same building. Now, they're not the same building, but it's just kind of funny. But stranger things have happened in the sense that Amory Aldrich, most powerful man in Congress, got this bill passed. And shockingly, JP Morgan has been at the pinnacle of banking and finance ever since. And now you got the president of JP Morgan pissing on Bitcoin at Davos.
Saying that Satoshi's face is going to pop out.
Well, here's the funny thing. Everyone is mad
that was hilarious.
that Jamie's pissing on Bitcoin. And
no, he's talking his book. I said that on Around the Blockchain yesterday.
You're 100% right. But here's the funny, here's my point. Like, guys, flip it around. You can judge the quality of an idea by the quality of its detractors. If no one cared about Bitcoin, it would be a bad idea. If ignorant people cared, it'd be a bad idea. The fact that maybe one of the
Warren
most most powerful people in the world, he's got 10 minutes on TV from Davos.
No, Joe Carney did kind of seed him there with the question.
That's fine, but he didn't see. But that's the thing. In media training, you are taught, and I know because I've done this. is when someone asks you a question, right?
And deflect.
You deflect and redirect and talk about what you want to talk about. Now, I would say, look, I'm a dutiful firstborn. So you ask me a question, I'm going to answer it. And my media coach was like, Mark, what are you doing? You never answer the question. Never. You need to control the narrative.
That would be tough for me too.
Jamie used his 10 minutes to talk about Bitcoin. So I flip that around and say, it must be pretty important. And it is important. And it's important because Bitcoin does to money and value what the internet did to media and commerce. And, it's funny, we're talking about this on Netflix Day, right? But when I was growing up, I was owned, and I don't mean that in a bad kind of way, but ABC owned me. I would be in a chair, 8 o'clock on Tuesday night with my TV tray, watching Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley. Every Tuesday, religiously.
Right.
They had my eyeballs, they had my attention, they had the advertising revenues because I was watching their shows. They owned all the content, they made the content. So how did their market cap go like this? And Netflix's market cap went like this. How did that happen? Because they didn't want to give up the good to go for the great. So they got disrupted by a subscription model, by a streaming model that said, we don't have to create the content right away. We just have to give people choice to watch when they want to watch what they want to watch. Then we'll create the content and we'll lock the people in and we'll get all your market cap. And that's exactly what happened. So the same thing's going to happen to finance. The reason Jamie Dimon says it's a fraud, the reason Warren Buffett says it's like, rat poison squared, the reason Charlie Munger one-upped him and said it's like trading newly harvested dead baby brains. Really, seriously. They say that because 46% of Berkshire Hathaway is financial services. And Wells Fargo's days of charging egregious fees to steal money from clients, which they just got convicted of recently, or JP Morgan's days of spoofing the price of gold and paying $1 billion fine.
It's so funny you mentioned that Wells Fargo thing because I brought it up in yesterday's stream on Around the Blockchain and said, honestly, guys, Wells Fargo is worse than FTX if you ask me.
Oh, orders of magnitude worse.
Okay, exactly.
Look, here's the thing.
How is that not they should be shut down?
Look, here's the thing.
Or someone should go to jail. Someone should go to jail.
100% go to jail because here's what the banks do. Look, FTX, bad guy, gal, and I don't think it was them. They're not the masterminds of anything. It's somebody way above them. But bad people did bad things. They stole money to funnel into political candidates to curry favor and power. Great. It's a story as old as time. Bad people do bad things. But that was people's speculative money, right?
Sure, right.
The bulk of their net worth. It wasn't their day-to-day living expenses. It was their investment money. They were trading, they were speculating. And it's bad and it's horrible. And
it is.
And look, and I'm a victim of it myself. It's bad. But here's the thing. What Wells Fargo did and what these other banks do is way more heinous.
Oh my God.
The little stuff like this, like overdraft fees.
Yeah.
The way it works, right? You're struggling. The average person doesn't have $500 saved for an emergency. And you write checks and you're waiting for your paycheck to get in. You write check. They actually have software that caches the withdrawals before they process the deposit so they can steal overdraft fees. I mean, think about that. Instead of doing the opposite, which is to say, you're our customer and we want you to thrive, we'll hold, because we're big and we have some cushion in our profits. We'll hold those withdrawals for a couple days until your deposit comes in. They could do that and it wouldn't hurt them at all. In fact, it would give them
not at all.
And people would flock to them. But instead, they steal from their customers.
And of course, we know that this affects primarily the lower and then maybe the middle class people only, right? The lower middle and middle class individuals are the ones they're targeting and hitting with this 35, however.
Look at interest rates on credit cards. Look at the interest rate that you're charged to use an ATM to withdraw your money.
Yeah.
Right?
So,
$3.50.
this is a good
Take
segue
out
to
a
this.
$20 bill from an ATM.
Yeah.
And pay $3.50.
On top of another $3 from sometimes your your bank. Right.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a lot of money there. 30%. Yeah.
I mean,
crazy.
And that's the stuff that is.
So this is my question to you, Mark. Like, I feel like I want to ask you, because I don't want to see see the question or whatever. What do you think about capitalism today?
Oh, great question. And I was just talking about this morning, and it's not a very popular view. I live in North Carolina, and I tell this story relatively frequently. 10 years ago, they had the Democratic National Convention down in Charlotte. Mm-hmm. And this guy went down and he had a video recorder and he asked people, should profits be made illegal? More than half the people he interviewed said yes, profits should be illegal. And my brain was like exploding. Like, what are you talking about? And it's the same backlash we have against capitalism. Capitalism is what leads to long-term success. And everybody says, no, that's wrong. It leads to hierarchy. No. Capitalism has led to every innovation that we have. Why do people innovate? Why do people create new things? Profits. They want to make money, right? There are very few, not zero, but very few who endeavor to create to give away. There are not zero, but very few. Or
if they are at that point, they've already made so much money.
They've already made their money, and they're being philanthropic. But that's also part of capitalism, right? What capitalism does is it allows people to create new ideas, jobs, business, capital that then gets put into philanthropic things that can do good in the world. But here's the problem. Capitalism is not cronyism. Cronyism is bad. Mm-hmm. Cronyism is different. Cronyism is where we have ended up.
We have a proliferation of cronyism today.
And cronyism is bad, right? Cronyism works like this. You get a certain group of people in power, and they get all their friends. And they come in, and they get at the top of the pyramid, and they own all the stuff. And then they systematically devalue the currency. Why would they do that? Well, as you devalue the currency, what happens to the value of assets? Goes up. Real estate goes up, stocks go up. Here's the crazy thing. 49% of people in this country, 49% of people in this country own no stocks. No Robinhood account, no 401k, no stocks, none. Okay? That's a problem. Average person doesn't own. They rent. They rent their car. They own their car with an 8-year loan. That's not owning your car because you're underwater the day you drive it off the lot. So you're renting your car, you're renting your house, you're renting your apartment. And so I always say, how do those people stay in power? If they're impoverishing the masses by stealing their wealth through this thing called inflation, which inflation is just theft, right? Mm-hmm. If I had $1 and tomorrow it's worth 98 cents, you just stole 2 cents from me. It's as simple as that. And I said, well, how do those people stay in power? Giveaways. Argentina. How does Cristina get elected? How is it possible? Convicted felon, bad person, get elected. She gives away free electricity. How does Maduro get elected? He gives away free money. How do people in the United States get elected? I'll forgive your student loans. I'll give you free. I'll talk about UBI, Universal Basic Income. Are you joking? Right? That's buying votes. And so what we really
with the UBI thing, though, I think we're going to be forced into UBI because of this AI stuff, man.
Well, okay, I'll push back a little. Here's the thing. Okay. Every day that you and I have been alive, and I've been alive longer, I'm old, but every day we've been alive, someone has said, technology, getting rid of all the jobs. Fact. We have more jobs today than any time in history. And here's the interesting thing. When the horse and
the
buggy,
quality of jobs, though, Mark, the quality of those
quality
jobs.
definitely changes. But here's the thing. Factory worker job, high quality, low quality, I don't know. It depends.
And back in the day, it was a great, like, that's how my family, my grandfather, he had a factory job, right? And took care of the whole family.
Took care of the whole family.
Wife didn't work. I know there are a number of things. The dollar was worth more.
By inflation.
That's a
right?
that's an inflation situation.
That's a great point, right?
Right.
We should have a world where, someone, because at the end of the day, someone takes care of the kids. Like I used to, and this will make me unpopular with some of the women, but the super mom, right? I'm working and I'm taking care of my kids. No, you're not. You're working, and I applaud that. I support it, but someone else is taking care of the kids. Right?
Yeah,
just a fact, right? Someone else is physically with the kids. Now, whether that's grandma and grandpa, or whether it's an aunt, or whether it's daycare, doesn't matter to me. That's all part of the community. But I love the world that I grew up in. My mom stayed home. My dad worked, and he was originally a factory worker. Eventually, he went back to school at 29 and got a job as an accountant. But interestingly, that world got taken through cronyism.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go back to the 1920s, we had very divided government, very polarized, very high income and wealth disparity. And then from the 1920s, after the crash, to the 1960s, right around the Kennedy era, we troughed. We had the lowest polarization, right? And part of that was the peace and love generation and post-war, but there were other reasons, and some of it was good leadership. We had some good leaders, and we had less cronyism, and we had real politicians who wanted to help as opposed to get rich. And we had lower wealth and income inequality, even though we had quote unquote high inflation.
Right.
How is that? Well, we had lots of different reasons for that.
Right.
Because we had the good kind of inflation, real inflation. Inflation caused by excess demand inflation for services, because all the people post-war were turning 45 to 65 and having families and consuming, and that's good inflation. That's the kind of inflation you want. What we had the last couple of years is not inflation. That's currency devaluation. That's bad. Right. Because that's designed for cronyism. And so, this is a really long-winded way of saying that the AI will certainly displace a whole bunch of low-end jobs. But what it also does is it frees up creative power of the people who get displaced, of people who can get rid of some of the menial stuff. And that creativity, historically, just because human ingenuity is amazing, leads to new ideas, right? You think about, I don't know, some percentage, pick a number, 50, 60, 85% of statistics are made up on the spot. So I'm going to make this one up too.
Right.
But pick a number, whether 50, 60% of jobs today are with businesses that didn't exist 20 years ago, right?
They exist only because of technology.
They exist because of technology and because someone came up with like Amazon's a great example. When Amazon first started, when Jeff moved across country to Seattle and set up and pitched investors and everybody said, "You're an idiot, no way." It was nothing, right? It was but a couple guys with a dream. Today, last I checked, they employ 4.5 million people. And a personal thing. So I have 2 nephews who tried to go to college and just wasn't for them, left. And people say, "Oh, you're a failure. You dropped out of college." They earn really good money, like high 6-figure incomes. They created a business. Now they had some help from their father, stepfather, but they're doing it. They're the ones doing it. They have a business that I love this. They put the tape on the floor that the robots follow in the Amazon warehouses. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
crazy.
they got creative and found a way
So
to take
my
advantage.
only issue is this go around. Now, it's cliche. This time is different. I really think this time is different because this evolution or cycle of technology increasing or advancement, I should say, is going to, in my opinion, eliminate a lot of white collar jobs this
Yes.
time.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering with that displacement of, I don't know if you call that GDP, like those are hot, people who make six figures, they spend more in the economy, they buy bigger homes, they send their kids to college, they do a lot of things. So I'm just wondering, like,
Yeah.
what happens to that
Okay,
white
but I'll push
collar?
back just a little bit because I
Okay.
agree with you by and large, but I'll push back just a little bit. I don't know if you saw the meme. So on the left-hand side, it was two roughnecks, the guys that put the oil well bit into the ground.
Yeah.
These big machines, and it's really dangerous.
They make good money. They make really good money.
Okay. But it said, okay, these two guys making, $27 an hour. Okay. On the right-hand side, they had this woman doing a dance, and she was not good. I mean, not good. TikTok person. She said $1 million a year.
Yeah.
So here's the weird thing, is those oil workers, those jobs aren't going away. We're going to need oil for the end of time. No matter how many EVs we have, we're going to need those oil workers.
ESG.
Those are good jobs.
It's
They're
not
still
a
out
thing,
there.
Mark. ESG is not a thing.
Oh God, no! Biggest scam ever. So huge scam. I mean, total scam. But
Yeah, I know,
here's the
I
thing:
know.
entertainment is going to grow, right? There's going to be an increasing number of us that entertain each other, and that's okay to a point. And I think the point that worries me is the movie WALL-E. Now it's a little different because they were on a spaceship that's waiting to come back to Earth because it blew itself up. But if you remember the thing in WALL-E where these guys are sitting on the hover chairs, drinking their big gulps, watching a screen 16 hours a day, big blobs, they can't even walk. If we're all only entertaining each other, that's bad. We still need someone producing widgets.
We need to make someone widgets,
producing...
right? Exactly. We need widget makers. What's going on here?
Yeah, well,
that's why I'm asking. Like, that's why I kind of posed a question. Like, and I was trying to lead into what's after capitalism. I hope we don't circle back around to socialism, and
if we do,
make
all
that
bets are
circle.
off.
Yeah, make that circle again.
Ferris Bueller was right. Isms are bad. Right? Fascism, communism, right? Totalitarianism. Isms are bad. The only good ism, right, is capitalism. And capitalism is good because it's about incentives. All of us want to be incented to create, to grow, to learn, to better ourselves, right? Why do people watch your show? To learn, to get better, to become better investors. Why do people give us capital to manage, right? To grow, to get better. Why do I do what I do? Why do I, come on shows like this to engage in dialogue and debate and search of truth, to learn, right? And to constantly invest energy to convert it into value. And what's interesting is what capitalism does that socialism does not do, that communism does not do, that totalitarianism does not do, is it kindles the spark that is necessary for the human condition, right? To be human.
So I'm scared that AI is going to kindle the spark.
That's the thing. Have you
used ChatGPT yet?
I have, but here's the thing. It's loquacious, verbose, a little bit snooty, factually incorrect pretty often, right? It's not perfect, but it's cool. It's shiny, And I did the AI thing where they do your avatar, and a couple of them, they were cool, right? I'll show you one. So there's one. My son looked at it and he said, "Dad, you look like the Witcher," and I'm like, I don't really know who the Witcher is, but I guess I'm supposed to know. But he's like, "That's really cool." But there's another one it's not even a recognizable human form. And so this is the one that, there it is.
Oh yeah.
He's like, that's kind of cool. That actually kind of looks like you. Like, yeah, all right. But, there was another one that was so off that it just wasn't good. And you've seen the one with the guy with the hands that are like 8, inches long.
Yeah.
So it isn't perfect. Now will it get better? Yes.
Yeah, and it'll get better exponentially. That's
you got intellectual property.
You know this. You know that humans have a problem tracking exponential growth. You're smart enough to understand that.
Yeah. Here's my challenge to everybody watching. Fold a piece of paper tonight. Take a piece of paper and fold it 8 times. And report back on Monday how you did.
Now you're gonna make me go do that. I've
never
done that experiment.
I know. You can't do it. No matter how strong you are, no matter how big a tough guy you are, you cannot fold a piece of paper. And a guy tried. He said, "I'm gonna do it with a tissue paper." He said, "Damn it! It didn't even work with tissue paper."
Wow.
So look, if we could fold a piece of paper 50 times, we'd be at the sun. 100 times is the known universe. So people can't do exponential math, right? If I take 20 linear steps across the office, I'm at the other side. If I take 20 exponential steps, I get to high five you twice because I go around the world twice. 20 exponential steps around the world twice. So exponential growth is hard, but here's the thing. Capitalism will keep the AI destructive power in check. Let's take this lawsuit, right? So you got this company that owned a bunch of the pictures that this AI trained on, saying, whoa, that's ours. That's our intellectual property. You don't get to scrape that and claim it. And here's the other problem for ChatGPT, I guess. And again, I don't know if this is all 100% true, but it sounds true. It costs about $3 million a day that they're bleeding because they got to rent all the GPU power.
I heard that.
To make it work.
Too.
So until such time as you actually start charging people, and will people actually pay?
They're about to. Yeah. They're going to have
will people actually pay?
Pro.
Now, there are some people that say, yeah, I'll pay for that.
I polled my audience on how much they would be. Well, I polled people who have been actively using it, like myself, how much they would pay for it. And they said they would pay $1,000 a month easily for that.
Wow.
Because if you got to use it the right way, though.
You have to use it. Well, it's all about the questions, right? I say this all the time. Questions are way more important than answers. Yes. And you need to understand how to put in the right prompt to get the right.
I had it. I took this write-up I did, right? It was a proposal. I said, well, it wasn't in a proposal form. I said, take this information. It was a couple sentences. I said, take this, include, and I said, this website link URL for the About Us part. I said, include this and write it in a proposal tone. And it did a damn good job.
Good job. All right, that's good.
And I said 300 words.
And you got exactly 300 words. That's pretty cool too. But ultimately, I go back to my 8th grade, which is a long ass time ago, 8th grade computer teacher. And that's back when computers were very different than they are today. There were no personal computers. They were big, giant machines, and they had, phone dial-up modems. And he said, this computer is as smart as a screwdriver. And that is true. Every computer is only as smart as a screwdriver. And we said, no, they have intelligence. No, they don't. They can be programmed, again, by humans. And I said, well, the machines are going to program themselves. Hasn't happened.
I had to write a couple programs too, actually. I have a computer science background.
You can certainly use a program to write a program, but it can only do that if it learns how to do that from someone who already wrote a program.
Sure, today, yes.
And the question is, will it be able to intuit? And this is, I don't know if you ever do this, right?
The Turing test. Yeah,
I do this all the time, where I'll sit and I'll just kind of keep track of my thoughts and how random they are. Computers don't do that, right? Computers are good with logic and things that they have to be repetitive, fast, and like say scraping a whole bunch of data and consolidating it, or but to sit here and say, okay, we're talking about AI and computing, and I'm thinking in the back of my brain, what I have for lunch, what am I doing for dinner, what am I going to wear to this dinner tonight? Those are, the brain is
sentient things, activities, right?
Sentient things. And it's funny. I was today years old when I saw the thing that's going around the internet today about the Da Vinci painting, the angel and God touching fingers, and God's in a brain. I was like, what? I've never seen that. And when you look at it now, you can't unsee it. I mean, God is in a brain, an anatomically correct brain with the medulla, whatever it's called.
I gotta go look at it again.
No, it's amazing. And so
crazy.
And what's interesting about that is just the whole juxtaposition of faith and reason and how they both can coexist. But ultimately, I'm an optimist on lots of stuff. I mean, part of it's what I do for a living. I invest in people who I think are good and can build new ideas. But ultimately, every application of technology that I've ever seen has made us better at doing things that used to be mechanical. And if you go back in the history, originally, it was all about converting human power, muscles, into mechanical power. And it's a little politically charged, but people all talk about, well, slavery and how did slavery end and who about, like, interesting point, which I actually I agree with. Slavery was really abolished by the discovery of oil. Yeah. Because in every barrel of oil, there's 40
Well, it was eventually going to be. If it wasn't, it definitely was going to be.
And there were many people who were responsible and many activists and many people who rose up. And but it's never simple. But my point there is simply to build a building in the Dark Ages, you needed lots of people. Slaves or family or whatever. That's why I had a lot of kids, right, to work on the farm. Right. But once you had mechanical power and hydraulics and all that stuff, you needed less people. Now we're going from not mechanical, but from like cognition, right, to sentience. And that is scary. It is. But ultimately, I don't know if you talk to Jimmy Song or follow Jimmy Song.
I haven't had him on, no.
Jimmy does this great talk. This is one of his first talks where he talks again, this is a politically charged word, but he says, if you work for fiat, you're a slave, right? You're a slave to the fiat system that we talked about before, where they can devalue your currency and make it worth less, and therefore you're indebted to them. So what Bitcoin does is it frees you from that slavery, because now your money doesn't get less valuable, it gets more valuable over time. Okay. Now what that does is it enables you to be more creative. And he makes the argument that will unleash more better things, creativities, activities, businesses, wealth. And I agree with that. And I think it's because the basic human condition is optimism. And I use a simple example. Who was the third guy, because back then it was the guys who were the hunter-gatherers. Who was the third guy who went out to try to kill a mastodon with a spear? Because the first two didn't ever come back. So who was the third one that said, yeah, I'm going to be better than those guys, and I'm going to figure out if I get them right there and go up through the head, I can kill him and not die. That was an optimistic guy.
That's true.
I was talking to a guy yesterday. He went down to Savannah to do the ghost tour, and they took him to the original place there. They did surgery. And in the old days, before anesthesia, they liquored you up, they strapped you down, and did surgery. Wow. You know what the survival rate was? 35%. Right? So here's the thing. You got appendicitis. Probably going to die if you don't have surgery. If you go to surgery, 2 out of 3 chance you're going to die. What do? Somebody came up with anesthesia. But I want to know who was the first person who said, yeah, I'll try some of that and let you cut me?
Yeah, exactly.
So ingenuity is amazing. And the fact, I love the fact that, you and I are having a conversation live in real time in HD, which I wish it wasn't HD because I look a lot better when it's fuzzy. But it's amazing that 30 years ago, there were barely personal computers.
Yeah, it is.
And now we walk around with a supercomputer that's 100 times more powerful than the thing that NASA used to put a rocket in space. And we take it for granted how powerful that is and how powerful it makes us. And so, again, wrapping it back to digital assets and crypto in the future, to me, Bitcoin is an example of human ingenuity that realized that we had a monopoly on thought for thousands of years. The church controlled thought, right? We, community, would go to church once a week, and we would be told how to think, what to think, because we couldn't read, we couldn't write, and the printing press busted that monopoly.
Right?
Now, what then happened? True. Governments took over through state-owned or state-sponsored media. We didn't have state-owned media in the United States. We had 3 channels when I was growing up: ABC, NBC, CBS. 6 o'clock, Walter Cronkite, Dan Rather would get on, and they'd say the same thing. They would be given their talking points, and they would tell you what to think, how to think. And the internet busted that monopoly wide open. I mean, I got most of my knowledge, quote unquote, wasn't really knowledge, as a kid from a set of books, Encyclopedia Britannica, that a bunch of old white guys, I hate to say it that way, but it's a bunch of old white guys writing the story that they believed. So no diversity, no equity, no inclusion, no reality.
The champions write the history, right? That's what they say.
Yeah, history is written by the winners. And so, but I had no other source for information other than the television.
Now we have YouTube University, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly.
Welcome to the class.
Exactly. And the internet busted that wide open.
Yeah.
And so media, commerce, totally disintermediated. And you're a perfect example of that, spreading knowledge. And now, because of Satoshi, whoever he, she, they are, we've
Which separated... I think is Paul LaRue, by the way, one of them. Paul LaRue. Check into him.
No,
he's in jail right now.
I'm with you. Okay. I'm with you that it was 4 guys.
I think he's one of them. Yeah,
I'm with you that it was 4. I think it was Hal. I think Paul could definitely be one.
Yeah.
And then 2 others. And I
not
think
Craig though. I don't think Craig.
No, definitely not.
Craig Wrong is not. Hey, Craig, if you're watching, don't sue me.
Yeah,
you're not it.
No, look, it's like Shakespeare was right. The lady doth protest too much, methinks. If you have to say you're him, you ain't him.
You're not him, right?
It's like if you have to ask.
So true.
To go to Augusta, you don't get to go to Augusta.
Right.
So. It does no, it's not him. But Satoshi created the ability to have unique assets in the digital realm. And that construct is so powerful because money or value has been restricted to this. And I used to use the word cabal, but I didn't realize that was a trigger word for the Jewish population. So I don't use that anymore. They said I should
wait a minute, it is?
Yeah, I didn't know that. I had no idea that was a trigger word for, and someone called me an anti-Semite. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's a word I thought meant, a small group of people. I'm like, no.
Off police, man. We're gonna have like 3 words we can use in a minute, Mark. We're gonna only have 3 words.
No, but someone said you should use cartel. I'm like, well, then I'm just going to offend a bunch of people in Latin America.
Exactly.
So anyway, I'm going to offend somebody. But the point is that banking and finance has been run by a very small number of families for 800 years. and they really like controlling it. But it's over. And what Bitcoin does.
How long do you think it's going to take? Honestly,
I mean, it's going to take decades.
Another 50 years? Yeah.
It's going to take decades.
Yeah.
But it's not going to take centuries. It's going to take decades. But
yeah.
And I describe it like this, right? There's the famous Gandhi quote that I guess Gandhi didn't say. And I don't remember who said it. But it's the, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. Well, 2009 to 15, first they ignore you. A bunch of nerds and geeks playing with their magic internet money. Who cares? Then they laugh at you. Okay. Oh, look, 2016 to 21, bunch of nerds and geeks playing with their magic internet money. Ha, 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 ha. Then they fight you. So starting last year, and I think unfortunately probably for 5X years, they're going to fight. And they're going to fight really hard. And they're going to fight through regulation. They're going to fight through FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. They're going to fight.
Yeah, I didn't even
TV.
get through. I'm definitely, guys, make sure you hit the thumbs up, comment in this video if you want Mark back on, because I didn't get to not almost one point on my outline. Very respectful of people's time. I'm very respectful.
I'm happy
of
to come back again. I do this. I don't do short one. I do like to talk. I joke. I got this gift from my mom, and I love her for it. Growing up, we called her Yak Yak Face, because she could talk to anyone, anywhere, anytime about anything. And I got a little bit of a gift to gab, right?
No, that's a great attribute to me. I'm sorry.
That's
a great attribute to have.
You prepare. Look, what someone said to me once, a great podcast is you get good guests and you let them talk. I'm like, nope. What makes a great podcast, and this would be one, is when the host does research and has great questions, asks good questions, listens to the response, and then asks better follow-up questions. And that does tend to mean you'll go off-piste a little bit.
Right.
But then you get real conversation, and you get that dialogue and debate and search of
So
truth.
here's the thing, Mark. I normally don't do outlines. I usually have just conversations. So this is natural for me to have a conversation with you. It was just first time guest. I just wanted to be prepared just in case.
Awesome.
I didn't know how you were going. You don't know how people react the first time you have them on. So that's why I had something to, but now that
I'm
I know
happy to come
how,
back again. I enjoyed the conversation. I really appreciate what you're doing. I think I was on a panel yesterday at a thing here in Raleigh, and they asked me, which is kind of a funny question, what can we do to fix, the region and get people to come? And my response is always the same. We need to fix the education system, right? Our education system was designed to inculcate factory workers. Mm-hmm. Follow rules, don't question authority, sit on your square, regurgitate back to me. I don't need regurgitators. I need thinkers.
Right.
I need
thinkers.
Creators.
Yeah, we don't have those
I need
anymore.
problem solvers. And what YouTube University does, in fact, I would argue that school would be 100% better if the kids did their work at home, watch a Khan Academy video, watch this video, watch anything on YouTube, and then all the time at school was in small discussion groups and hands-on projects.
Well, that's where we're going, Mark, because circling back to ChatGPT, New York City has banned it. Teachers and students can't use, I don't know how you ban something that they can load up on their phone. Yeah. But anyway, because students are just literally going on there and saying, write me an essay on blah, blah, blah with this, and it's spitting it out. Done.
No, but
so they're going to have to
problem.
change the way that education.
No, but here's the thing. It's only cheating if the instructor isn't smart enough to change the ask. If the ask, like my son the other day, he's in 6th grade, was memorizing the capitals of African countries. No reason to do that.
No.
We can look that up anytime we need it.
Correct.
I can ask Siri and she'll tell me that Nairobi is the capital of Kenya. No problem. That's not important.
Exactly.
Let's talk about why there's a civil war in Sudan.
Yeah.
Let's talk about why there's a civil war in Sudan where people chop other people's heads off with machetes because some white guy drew a line on a map in his tent sipping brandy, not understanding the different religions in the area. And because of that line on a map, we got families killing each other. So let's have a conversation about that.
Very good point.
Memorize capital. And
very good point.
And maybe that's a little heavy for a sixth grader, but there are plenty of things.
No, but it should get him to start to understand like what we should be wasting brain power on and what we shouldn't. You're right. We should.
And using ChatGPT to do a mind-numbing exercise, like I call them art projects. Like another one, I had to make a safety. I had to make a safety sign for class. Right? Like, okay, a conversation about safety is fine, but making the poster, no, there are posters online. I can go buy one. And the teacher gave him like a 65 because she didn't like his color scheme.
Or he could have used Dolly too and just prompted it to say, make me a safety sign, and boom. Sign.
But then, she might not have liked that because, again, she didn't like the color scheme. But that's not what we grade. That's not what we want to grade.
It's not.
I told the funny story. So we have a funny family. We have two older kids, 33 and 31, and then the little guy who's just turned 12. And everybody always laughs. I'm like, when'd you get the new wife? I'm like, nope, same wife. I'm like, how's that possible? No. Gift from God.
When did you get the new wife?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. It's so funny. And now I get, is that your grandson? I'm like, nope, my son. I'm like, how's that possible? I'm like, don't know.
Great, right? Men can have. I mean, you could have had a young tenderoni.
Yeah. I don't know. But the funny thing is, older kids went to public schools, and we're like, all right, we've heard this school here is really good. Let's go try it out. So we went to their evaluation day, 4 years old. And at the end, they call us and they say, well, we think we'd like to have William as part of our community, but we noticed some behaviors.
Oh,
like,
God.
Do tell. What? Well, he's having a really hard time sitting on his square. Like, don't ever ask a 4-year-old boy to sit on a square. Ever. Not ever. Don't know. No. Okay. And then I said, okay, and what else? Well, he was walking around the classroom, picking things up and looking at them. You mean he's curious?
Right. Right.
So, but those places exist. And it boggles the mind that you want to take away creativity, initiative, and in fact, I'll leave with this last thought. So a friend of mine runs the leadership program at Duke, and he's amazing, just a great guy. And he said, the perfect person for me is a kid who got suspended, and in the week he was out of school, started a motorcycle repair shop. Because the fact that he got suspended meant that he thought the rule was dumb, and he pushed back against it.
Right.
And then he went out and did something in this time instead of just watching TV. So he's got
That's what happened with me, man. I dropped out of college because I was making more than the professor building websites. And
there you go.
They, I'm just like, come on, guys. You guys are teaching me C+, and I'm on web development languages now. And so I understand. Think. You got to think. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, teach me how to think.
So I just want to leave with this here because I have a couple of questions from my premium YouTube members, and I promised that I would bring those up. So this guy, My Crypto Space UK, asked, does Mark have a blueprint for researching a project to invest in? He could share with us. So basically, like your investment thesis.
No, that's a great question. So blueprints are important. Processes are important because they're repeatable. It's like free throw shooting. Right? I go practice free throws all day and I'll still suck because I have a bad process. When I need a coach to come in and tell me how to groove a shot, I'd still be bad, but I could, be better with a coach. So we do have a process, and I think the question is asking specifically about, crypto projects. So
I would assume so.
Bitcoin,
yeah.
no, so Bitcoin, right? So why do we love Bitcoin? We love Bitcoin because we look at what is the addressable need, right? Which is separation of money and state. Okay, like that. Is it secure, right? So we look at, with crypto, you got to deal with security. So I'm a huge proof of work fan, because to me, proof of work is superior to all other forms of security because it can't be corrupted. Proof of stake, it's okay, but it can be corrupted the same way that traditional finance can be corrupted.
Let me just interrupt you. I don't know if you know, but Ethereum today, 80% of Ethereum nodes are OFAC compliant. Did you know that?
I did not know. That's a good.
So that means, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, the people who watch my show know this. We go over this, but that means that if there was an address that somehow interacted with Tornado Cash, 85% of the Ethereum network would not process your transaction. That's where we are. Yeah. And it is because of the very thing you're talking about, Mark. Yeah. The very thing you're talking about.
So again, so that's one way. So, the biggest thing for us is it a big addressable need? I think privacy coins are another one. The problem with that, so you say, well, okay, which privacy coin and how do you evaluate? So ultimately, at least the start for us is people. So we look at the people who are behind the project, and that's served us really well. We have, I shouldn't say this probably on air, but we have the no dickhead policy, right? We don't work with bad people. And fraudsters, they might appear good, but if you do enough digging, usually you can find out who's a good person, who's bad. You can tell how people treat other people around them, how they treat their employees, how they treat, the wait staff if you're at lunch together. But bottom line is that's not.
You must have a good radar on that, because you did not invest in FTX, and I heard
we didn't.
Came across
I can't claim a win on that, because I never got invited because the numbers were so high, even in the first round, that I never asked to come meet.
I got you.
Like I did meet.
I think you would have had the bullshit.
No. I'm
it would have went off. It would have went off. You wouldn't.
I'm convinced I would have ran away.
Yeah,
and particularly if I had ever met Caroline. I mean, I said no chance. She's the mastermind of anything. But I mean, I can say that, over our course time, we met Madoff and we, actively took clients out of Madoff, and we didn't know exactly what he was doing, but we knew he was doing something bad. And there are plenty of others that we've avoided. I have violated the rule twice. There were two guys who were so smart, and even though they were total jerks, we said, all right, fine. And I lost money both times, so I'll never do it again. But so one is the people, where are they from, what's their background, who they hang with. I'm a big believer, to the 5 people you spend the most time with, that's who you'll become. That's critical. So if you hang with the wrong people, I'm probably not going to go there.
Right.
So that's one. The second is, we are financial services people first. We're not tech people. I'm not an engineer. I'm a financial services guy. But I partnered with 2 engineers who do the tech side. And so we really scrub that intersection of financial services and blockchain technology. So anything that can take waste out of the system, we're invested in Figure Technologies. They're trying to revolutionize mortgages on blockchain and security settle. We like that a lot. There's a lot of work to do there, but we like that project. And the provenance blockchain. I'll leave you with this, because it's we could talk all day, because like I said, it is a great question, but I'm not sure yet which of 3 outcomes we have in what we'll call Web 3, for lack of a better term. So Web 1 and Web 2, we ended up with 5 protocols. right? So we got IP at the base, then we got TCP IP that sits on top of that. We're using it right now to communicate. That is the base layer. Then we have FTP to transfer files. We have SMTP to make email work. We have HTTP for websites, and we got www. Kind of the toolkit that makes the World Wide Web work. Okay, fine. So in the future, are we going to have 5 new protocols? Bitcoin base layer, Filecoin like FTP, Ethereum like the www dot, and Cosmos, Polkadot, Solana, whatever in those other 2. I don't know, maybe.
I get where you're going.
Or are we going to Bitcoin, Lightning, L3, L4, and none of this other? The Maxis want us to believe that. I'm probably not in that camp.
I'm not
probably
in that camp.
Or Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Cosmos, Polkadot, a bunch of L1s and bridges. It's possible too.
That's possible.
And because I don't know, we do make bets in each of those. So I'm invested in Bitcoin.
Smart.
I'm invested in Lightning. I'm invested in some L3s. I'm invested in Ethereum. I'm invested in Solana, although I don't love Solana right now because it's kind of
I call it the Windows 95 of crypto.
Pardon?
I call Solana the Windows 95 of crypto.
Amen, brother. That is exactly what it is. That is so good. That is so good. Yeah. That's really good. That's exactly right. And so
let me get you this one really quickly because I got 2 more. I just got to squeeze these in. How did you get started? What hedge funds does he see as competitors? Thoughts on crypto? That's pretty broad. I mean, that'll take forever.
Real fast.
My
life's just a series of happy accidents. I went to school to be Mr. Brady from the Brady Bunch. He wanted to be an architect. He was an architect. I wanted to be an architect. That didn't last. Okay. I graduated pre-med. In 1985, pre-med, 2 jobs. You can be a consultant in healthcare or a pharmaceutical sales rep if you don't go to med school. I'm not 6'4" and handsome, not going to be a pharmaceutical sales rep, so I was going to be a consultant. The partner said, go to business school, then come back. So I went to business school, went to Chicago.
And never came back.
And I never came back because, and the reason is simple. My dad was a partner at Anderson, and I didn't want to be Bill Yusko's son. Because every time someone would meet me, say, "Oh, that's why."
So you went to University of Chicago?
Yeah, for grad school.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so I went to work for an insurance company. The guy who was doing investments retired. That was my happy accident. I got into investments, and I went to work for the 2 professors. Then I went back to the alma mater at Notre Dame, came down to Carolina, and then launched Morgan Creek 20 years ago. We do hedge funds, but now we're a venture capital fund. So I'm a hedge fund allocator. I'm kind of a hedge fund manager on occasion.
I got to get you back on to talk about venture and the.
Yeah, but I'm really a venture capitalist now. And then, what I think about the markets and look, I think the equity markets are still wildly overvalued, and I think a lot of bad stuff's going to happen as we kind of normalize profit margin declines and all that. I think the crypto markets are the opposite. I think we're in crypto spring. I think crypto summer is only a few months away, and the next run to the next halving is going to be very exciting. Every halving adds a 0, right? We went from 1 to 10, 10 to 100, 100 to 1,000, 1,000 to 10,000. This next halving is the 100,000. And so where are we by 2030? I think by 2030, I think we could be at what I said 3-4 years ago, that in 10 years, we're at gold equivalents. Gold equivalents is about 5 trillion of value for Bitcoin, which would make each coin about 250K. Maybe as high as 400K, depending on how many actual coins are minted, how many are lost or stolen, and all that. But somewhere in that range by 2030 is possible. Very, very comfortable that 100,000 at this halving. Now, again, if you put 4 more years after 2024, 2028, in theory, we get another 0. And Murray Stahl, who I respect and admire, runs a firm called Horizon Kinetics. He makes me look like a bear. He will argue definitely we're going to hit that $1 million number. That $1 million number, though, is based on the total value of gold, the $10 trillion market cap, but half of gold isn't monetary, right? It's jewelry and chalices and gold leaf on the top of the dome, where I went to an undergrad. And then the last one is are there hedge funds that we like? Look, we came out of the traditional hedge fund world, and now we spend a lot of time in the crypto hedge fund world. And look, Travis Kling at Ikigai, love him. I talked to him today. We were investors. He got caught up. You know, he had made the right call. He had gone to cash, but he left the cash at FTX, and so that just sucks. And so, you know, that he's a victim, right? He is a victim, but he is a great manager. There's a young guy.
I'm definitely going to have you back on to talk about FTX, because I wanted to talk about the 5.5 billion that has been recovered, and what do you think about?
Well, but it's not 2.2 of that is Serum, and Serum's worthless.
Oh,
so
is
they're
it?
calling that 2.2 billion. It's not.
That's no good.
It's not. And FTT, I think they have valued at 500 million. That's a zero too. So look, the recovery at FTX, 10 cents on the dollar, maybe.
Really?
Maybe.
Damn. Okay.
Now, if they start clawing stuff back, like people that
have you
got
heard
their
about
money out,
the whole Bahamas situation? They're saying that there's more, and then Bahamas saying no, there's less, and
of course,
what is going on?
Look, if you want to go down a rabbit hole, look up Deltec Bank in the Bahamas. Bahamas have been a haven for money laundering and bad activity. Jeffrey Epstein, all that stuff, all goes to the Bahamas. And if you really want to go down the rabbit hole, ask ChatGPT, where did Jeffrey Epstein's money go? And I bet it says FTX. I bet you it says that.
Oh yeah, I did hear about that. It did.
Well, I mean, come on.
Ghislaine, after he died.
Ghislaine, bad lady that she is, the daughter, her lawyer is defending Sammy. That's not coincidence.
God, that is crazy.
That's not coincidence. Anyway, this was fun.
Yes.
We'll definitely do it again.
Thank you so much, guys.
I appreciate
definitely hit the thumbs up for having Mark come back on. Leave your comments in the section below. And we'll have Mark W. Yusko back on soon for another Kicking the Session. Thanks again, Mark.
And I love the hat, by the way.
Thank you. Detroit, let's go. Peace.